My name is Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Dispatch.
I do. You're gonna do it. Do it really well.
And I believe the world needs more dispatchers.
Around in the mud, blood, and beer.
Years that I'm not working 4th of July. 4th of July.
Hey, community policing, right? What about community dispatching?
So on this show, with the help of my guests, we will educate, empower, and support the heroes behind the headset.
Right.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch with me, Ashley, the Raspy Dispatcher. I hope you guys are all doing wonderful as we're heading into this holiday season. We're recording this just before Thanksgiving, and I actually just got a notice, and I haven't published it yet, but we have published this week our 75th episode of the Let's Talk Dispatch podcast. And for folks who listen, tune in, are familiar with podcasts, there are a lot of them out there. It's definitely the new media. It's easy, affordable, a way to express yourself, your opinions, your thoughts, so on and so forth. So a lot of folks are doing it, but a lot of folks don't make it to 75 episodes. And the reason that we've made it this far is because of everyone who is listening, tuning in, coming onto the show, sharing their stories, being vulnerable with a bunch of strangers, including me. So I really appreciate you all for the love and support and continuing to tune in to our podcast. Speaking of our podcast, today's guest has over 8 years experience with the Florida Highway Patrol as a dispatcher and a training officer. They have currently switched over to Lee County Port Authority, serving there as a dispatcher. And let me catch my breath as I continue to tell you all the amazing things this guest does. They sit on the Florida APCO as a board member and committee chair. They work with the Denise Amber Lee Foundation as an intern, and they are also a team member and editor at the Humanizing the Headset organization. My guest today, Trae. Woo, hi, Trae.
Hey, hello.
Woo, I had to catch my breath with all the amazing things that you do out there for us.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
But it's so awesome to have you here. I told you a little before Halcyon with Denise Amber Lee. We've been bullying you for quite some time to get you to come on here with us. So I'm glad we were able to make it work.
That's definitely a way to put it.
If anyone's in our Let's Talk Dispatch private group, there's usually a meme thread below any exchange between the three of us. Okay,
that's
so
definitely true.
Yeah. How did you get into public safety?
It's always been something I was interested in. From when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be in law enforcement. Was always interested in being around law enforcement. Middle and high school, I got involved with my local sheriff's office as a police explorer and cadet. Stayed with that until I was in my 20s. Then applied for dispatch position and ended up under the headset. Thought I would do it as like an introduction to public safety, then transition to the road, but I just fell in love with it. I think it's where I'm going to probably stay. So.
What was it like for you in the beginning? I mean, I feel like I'm also the same. I thought I would, get into dispatch and eventually move out into the field. And I got real cozy, liked my heater, and
The air conditioning and the blankets and the TV. What can go wrong,
Well, no, there's raining out there. I'm staying here.
Yeah.
But what was that like for you in the beginning? Like finding that, finding your footing in dispatch and realizing like this is the place for you?
I felt at home. I had always, like I said, always loved law enforcement. So to be involved with it and to be playing an important part that isn't for everyone, I think I found a calling in it, and I found that I fit in with a group of weirdos, and we were having a good time, and just really enjoying what we were doing in the downtime. Making good company for each other, and then when things hit the fan, we were able to work together and know that we were supporting those out in the field.
That's awesome. I think a group of weirdos is the best way I heard anyone describe dispatchers because it's so true. Like we talk about it all the time, I think, in our centers, like when we talk about backgrounds and like we're joking about that. It's like you gotta be just a little weird to get into to get through backgrounds and to get into this line of work.
Absolutely, and we're all different. Everyone's got different history, different background, and very different interests outside of work. But then we all come together, and we're one big happy family when we gotta be, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember any of your first calls for service or early calls working?
Uh, when I started at FHP, I remember this one call. I was really early in training. I think it was still just on phones, with a trainer there over my shoulder, still like ask this question kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we took a couple back-to-back calls. There was a pedestrian on the interstate, that kind of turned into like a suspicious person, or like they were saying that he's sitting on the barrier and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and then as troopers got there, it turned into a traffic fatality. The guy had jumped in front of traffic and stuff.
Oh,
So
wow.
right off the bat, very early on, got exposed to how chaotic working with the interstate and traffic incidents can be, and just how it goes from one call about a person walking on the shoulder to all of a sudden it's a fatality kind of thing, and seeing how the calls progressed. Um, we took probably 20 calls about the guy, and just that
Mm.
fast,
Yeah.
it changed to something completely different. So that was a eye opener into what the world of dispatch can really be.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, and I feel like I haven't talked to too many people who've done highway patrol, and I know at my old agency when we would transfer to highway patrol, they would be working the radio and answering the phones, so they'd be talking to me, and then they go, "Hold on," they start going out to their officers, and I would think to myself, I could never.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to work a busy, highway patrol interstate channel while also fielding phones. Like I'm like, These folks are superheroes." Like it just seems so wild to me, like the need to do that at those types of agencies.
Yeah, so both agencies have been with their non-traditional PSAPs, and not
Mhm.
doing, actual like 911. We get transfers,
Yeah.
or direct dials through admin lines kind of thing.
Mhm.
And they've all been you're on the phone, radio, teletype, everything all at once. And I've had the opportunity through my experience as an explorer with the sheriff's office and through my stuff with APCO to spend some time in other centers that do live 911, and where you're separated. There's a call taker, then there's a dispatcher, and they're doing their
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it's definitely different, and I can see it being in 911 side. Definitely, you need to have that separation when you can have it, and it works okay in non-traditional.
Mhm.
But in the non-traditional world, you also have to have like my shift partner and I will hear if something's going on if it's a good call, like
Mhm.
something's going on, they need to focus on the call, we'll grab their channel, whatever. That way they can focus on the caller kind of thing.
Mhm.
Because in the highway patrol life, there's a lot of times where I was, hang on, I gotta put you on hold so I can talk on the radio, and,
Mhm.
just trying to do that while if it's your call, because where I worked, it was 10 counties split
Mhm.
across 4 radio channels, and you were taking calls for all 10 counties, even if it wasn't your channel kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so if the call was on your channel and you're trying to dispatch your troopers and you're giving the live updates, it worked a little bit better. But if you're trying to like pry information from the other call taker while you're dispatching, it was a whole world. Or if you're on another call while there's a hot call on your console, just all kinds of things, man. It was an experience.
Yeah, no, I mean that level of multitasking that you have to do at those types of agencies. I mean, I've learned to do it now at my new agency because sometimes we'll go down to 2 folks, and then if we get like an accident coming in, my partner is supposed to be on the radio, but it's only me. 6
Yeah.
lines drop in, like we're both doing everything, and it is really um, when you think about it as working in highway patrol, just the amount of people that are gonna witness something compared to, like,
Yeah.
a city street, like 10 cars maybe on the highway, you're getting, hundreds of cars passing or hundreds of cars pissed off because they're sitting back there,
Exactly.
they haven't moved for an hour. They're like, what's going on? Just that level of increased amount of calls. I know I wait on hold sometimes with CHP as I'm transferring a call for
Mhm.
a couple minutes, just because they're getting so many calls. How do you folks manage that, getting such an influx of calls for the same incident?
Let me tell you, a ladder on the roadway, some debris on the interstate, and the phones will light up. We'll get 75 calls about one ladder, and that's
Oh my gosh.
just it's insane. But you move through them, and they teach you to treat each one like it's a new one because that's how you want to do it in any call. Is someone going to have some different information? Is it going to be in a new place now? Is it the truck hit it, now it's in the right lane instead of the left lane? Like things like that, and then you apply it to every call you take. But
Mhm.
you just get through them.
It's true because I think we can get complacent when we're getting like flooded with the same call over and over again. You're like, calling about the ladder in the roadway. All right, we got it. But then
Yeah.
it's like that call, you ask that person, like, ladder in the roadway. You're like, yeah, we're on the way. We're like, and they're like, yeah, well, it kicked up and it's in my windshield now. And you're like, wait, what?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
changes it a little bit.
Completely different situation now.
Right, hold on, you okay? Need medical? What's going on? Well, you've worked at 2 departments now, so you're at
Yeah.
the Port Authority. What does that look like? I don't think I've talked to anyone
Uh,
working in that type of role.
so I work primarily with Southwest Florida International Airport, with
Mm,
Lee County Port Authority. We provide police, fire, uh, some medical, and airport operations for 2 airports, Page Field Airport and the International Airport here in Southwest Florida. Um, and it is a whole different beast. Um, you're dealing with a lot of customer service throughout the day. Everyone at the airport wants to get where they're going and picking up courtesy phones throughout the airport and trying to figure out what gate they're supposed to be at and stuff like that. And then your
mhm.
next call is, uh, some kind of issue with an aircraft and it's coming to land at your airport kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Um, so we work closely with, the airport fire department and the airport police department for all kinds of things.
Mm.
And you wouldn't think it's quite as crazy on the public safety side at an airport, but I was shocked to find out that it really is.
That is really true. I went to this training, IDI Basic Post out here in California, and it was basically a training with the budget cops who were gonna teach at the academy, and it's like basic instructor training to be able to teach at the academy. And so I was in there with 2 LAX
Okay.
officers, and I was like, "The airport? Like, really? Like, what's popping at the airport?" And they're like, "You would only you could never imagine. Like, it's wild there." And I was like, "The airport?" And they're like, "Yeah." But it really does. It's one of those things, if you don't see it, we see all
Yeah.
these clips on TikToks and socials about people wilding out at these airports and stuff. And I mean, like, these things do happen on a regular basis. Like, we know we take calls and we hear the worst of the worst and all these things that don't hit the mainstream news, but it's true in these places where we frequent and we expect a level of normalcy and, like, routine, like, let's get through this. We're all trying to just get somewhere. There are folks who are responding to the upsets in that system.
Yeah, we're behind the scenes trying to make sure that everyone else gets to enjoy their time at the airport and get to where they're trying to go to. And that there's a lot behind that. Our comm center is very non-traditional. We're basically our own city. We have our own maintenance and public works and
Mhm.
janitorial services that, as a dispatcher, I have to work very close with. There's a spill on the floor in the terminal that's gonna, someone can slip on it. I got to get janitorial services out there, and which sounds weird as a dispatcher that I'm dispatching someone with a mop, but we
Yeah.
are. As but then also the police and fire department on radio at the same time. So just
Looking
doing
for
a little
one
bit of
lawsuit.
everything.
So if I
Yeah,
slip, I'm gonna be like, Trey, I'm gonna need
yeah.
that surveillance.
And with so many cameras in an airport too. Yeah, but we're the camera operators. They're all day
Cool.
on top of just general surveillance, but monitoring lines and
Mhm.
making sure that the airport is operating optimally.
Mm. Very interesting. It's one of those things. Like I went to another training, Klutz. Super fun, super exciting. Um, and someone was there who worked for the FBI, and they essentially were like a dispatcher for the FBI. They answered the phones. They dealt with sending people out and do all those things. And it was just like, wow, that's a job at the FBI. Like there's just these
I gotta write this down.
right? I was like, where you apply for that? I was like, I don't want to do none of the physical stuff. I'm older now. I want to say I work for the FBI and I want to answer some phones. And but like, yeah, like all these little pockets of organizations or departments or that you don't necessarily think have dispatchers, um, like the airport. So like, yeah, I guess the airport does need dispatchers
Yeah.
and I think it's so cool to learn about all the different ways we're affecting these organizations.
Yeah, and the way that we all play a piece in the public safety system. We have a good working relationship with, especially the county fire and EMS dispatch center.
Mm,
We have medics at our airport, but we don't have transport units, so we have to work very well with them for one mutual aid and for transport units for any kind of medical situation.
mm,
And then we have a small fire department, but we have responsibilities from like the FAA, where we can't send so many personnel outside the fence kind of thing. So we have to work with local fire departments close to us for anything that's outside of the perimeter fence of the airport kind of thing.
mm,
But it may still be our property. So we have a lot of mutual aid agreements and knowing how to work together and train together.
mm.
We do that pretty frequently, which is pretty nice.
Awesome. Do you have to do any or have any training or knowledge based on like how the flight patterns and stuff with the airplanes work when they're like coming into emergency land, or is that all handled by like the flight tower or things like that?
Air traffic control handles all of that, but we have an air traffic control radio.
Mm,
So when we get notified of an emergency from air traffic control, we can start listening to real time any updates that the
mm.
pilots or flight crews giving. It's kind of crazy. We have it looks so old school, like the old red desk phone
Oh
that
yeah.
you think of with 911. We
Yeah.
have one of those
Oh.
too, but we have one, and that's a direct tie to the air traffic control tower. So if something's going on in a plane and that phone rings,
Oh no.
that's direct air traffic control. Yeah.
You're like
So
when that phone rings, everyone's like looking at each other like rock, paper, scissors, you pick it up.
yeah, yeah,
Man, that's kind of
yeah,
like the 911 line rings, you're like, this could be anything. This could
yeah,
be a butt dial. This could be, but then that red phone rings and you're like, something's
yeah.
happening. I don't
Oh,
know if I like that.
yeah.
We could keep red
It's
phones
it's
out of my
yeah. So we have a regular phone, and then we're on taking a call, and all of a sudden the red phone
Mhm.
rings, and we all just like look at each other like, oh no.
Oh no.
Especially when it's already been a day, and
Because
then that
that is
red
when the
the
red
bell
phone's
rings,
gonna
and you're
ring.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's when the red phone's gonna ring. It's not gonna ring when it's, code 4. It's gonna ring when it's been hot grease and popping.
take that breath like, oh man, and then all of a sudden, oh man, that phone.
Aw. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Um, well, how important so you've worked at two centers now essentially,
Yeah.
and you've gone all over the place. You're doing all these great things with dispatch. Um, how important is the culture of a center to a department?
Um, I think culture is everything. Um, it's very important, especially um, in a job that's as high stress as ours.
Mhm.
Um, to have culture's how you feel when you wake up. Am I going to go to work and enjoy my day,
Mm,
or am I dreading going to work? Um,
mm,
and in a job like this, we have to love what we're doing, love the people we're doing it with, and know that I'm going to walk in the door and no matter what, I'm going to make a difference today.
mm,
Um, and not every center has that, but there are plenty that do,
mm,
and it's important to know that in our industry. Um, There's a quote from Simon Sinek. A culture is strong when people work with each other and for each other. A culture is weak when people work against each other for themselves.
Mhm,
And we talk a lot about, dispatchers eating their own and, eating the young. Um,
mhm,
and we can't keep doing that. But we got to keep going towards the first part of that, working with each other for each other to love our job and want to wake up every day, come in and have an impact, make a difference. We're
mhm,
serving our communities, we're dealing with the public, we're protecting the lives of first responders. If
mhm.
we're not coming in with the right mindset, that's a risk to everyone.
Yeah. It really is, and I think that when like that quote you mentioned is like, oh, I think it takes more effort to work against each other and for ourselves than it is to pour into each other.
Yes.
Like it's so much more draining, it's so much more it takes more bandwidth to do that.
Yeah.
And when we're when we're in a supportive environment in our centers, because we're gonna make mistakes because we're human, like it's
Absolutely.
gonna happen. And when we don't feel supported and we feel like we're walking on eggshells and someone's always watching to send an email about something, we're gonna create an environment where we're gonna make more mistakes because we're so
Yeah.
worried about that thing that we're not supposed to do and whatnot.
We're in a world where nothing's black and white. Every day is different, and
Mhm,
we're flying by the seat of our pants, making some crazy decisions every day.
mhm,
And I want to know that the people are going to support me if I know if I'm going to make the right decision, or if I'm going to make a decision in the best interest of what's going on. That
mhm,
both my management and my team are going to support that, and we're going to work together to come to a good resolution.
mhm. Exactly. And I mean, and one thing I think I often say on here is that, it's helpful when it comes from our supervisors and it dwindles down and has that natural flow. But it also just comes from all of us. What are you pouring into the room?
Absolutely.
Let's not focus on what supervisors aren't doing or aren't creating. How are we impacting the room when we come to work? Are we positive? Are we helpful? Are we a team player? All of those things matter in creating that culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're in a place where it may not be the brightest culture, what are you doing to impact it? Are you being the encourager and coming in every day with a smile on,
Mhm,
and trying to flip what's going on? Are you
mhm,
trying to bring the team together? Are you communicating that, hey, this ain't right? Why are we turning each other down?
mhm,
What's going on here? What can we flip? You know,
mhm,
um, or are you just letting it happen? Are you contributing to the negativity?
mhm,
Um, that's what we gotta start doing. It if we're not in a good environment, we either gotta change it or we gotta find a better one.
mhm. And that's true. And I mean, I think for some folks who are, sitting here and they're like dreading work and they're really not feeling good about having to go to shift, like that's not a great place to be in either. And maybe it is time for a shift, for you to leave or to find a new department or find a new role, because there are so many things that we can do with our abilities and skills that we learn in dispatch. And ultimately, you know we need more dispatchers, period,
Yes,
right? Full
100%.
statement. But we also need more folks who are happy, engaged, and really feel valued in these roles that we're asking people to fill. Because sometimes we get someone in the door and we're like, gotcha. you know,
Yeah,
now you're here, you're stuck, like, and we forget to love on them, and we need to continue to do that,
yeah,
especially after training, especially 5 years in, because we retention is just as important as recruitment, and culture helps with that.
100%. And, in remembering our people, not just when a bad call happens, and it's very important when, we hit that adrenaline rush call that we're checking on our people afterwards. They're fine when the
Mhm,
adrenaline's popping and we're either in or right after the call, but, keep checking in on your people. But outside of those calls, we're dealing with it every day. Sometimes we're working 70, 10-day weeks, 12-hour shifts. That takes a toll on people. It takes them away from their family for a long time. Are we taking time to check on our people and making sure that they're okay outside of work, or when they're coming in, they're in the right mindset? And just taking the time to have that conversation, or just take a moment to say, hey, are you okay, or how's everything going, makes that difference. It affects the culture.
It does. And when I had Drew Clark from Carbine on here, they said it really well. They said, I need to lead my people on blue sky days. And if I'm only talking to my supervisor about my job when I'm being coached or reprimanded or critiqued, or that doesn't feel good. Like, I don't only want to hear from you when I'm doing the doing poorly, or I made a mistake, or I needed some coaching. I want, and I also don't only want our interactions with the good stuff to be written document, whatever your department uses to highlight, for the bosses to see that you're doing a good job. Like, I want genuine connections with you. I want you to really come and tell me, like, oh, I noticed this, or I noticed that. Like, it's great for it to be written. I love that in my jacket, sure. But also I want to know, like, you genuinely think that we're not just checking boxes here to show the uppers what's going on in dispatch.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm fortunate where I'm at now. The supervisors and the management, they come out and hit the floor. They work with us, and they get down in the dirt with us. It was super busy one day this week. The phones were just ringing off the hook, and management came out of the office and got on the phones with us and got to work. And to have that camaraderie with your management and with your supervisors, and that they're not afraid to come work with you, and then do a good job with you and get you through it, is just there's no force like that, to get through it together.
And even taking it a step further, to not be asked, right? Like, to not be, hey, we're stinking out here. Can you come plug in? Like, just to hear it, to recognize it, to care enough to put a stop to your day, whatever you had planned, to go help your people as a manager. It really does go a long way to pour into that culture, to uplift that room. Because it's not like, once the dust settles, it's not like, so-and-so doesn't even understand what we're doing out here. We just got hammered. They don't even care. It's like, no, they came out here and they got their socks wet just like everybody else. We were all doggy paddling,
Yeah.
So what does engaging the industry beyond the council look like and mean to you? I mean, I listed your credentials before we got started here, but what does that look like for you? How did you find these roles? What makes you motivated to be involved with these things outside of your workday? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I've always just been super passionate and involved about what I get into. When I was a police explorer, same thing. I tried to get involved with connecting us with other organizations that had the program, and training together, or learning, hey, we do something like this, how do you do it, kind of thing. And when I got into dispatch, that's kind of when I started to seek, and I found this huge world on social media of dispatchers talking to each other. And from there, I started to, just build a really good network of people. That's how, I got involved with Humanizing the Headset with Brendan Sears and the crew over there. Just amazing people that tried to have a page that was full of positivity. It wasn't super memey. It wasn't talking about how bad my center is and this and that, and just, bashing the profession on social media. It was just people trying to build a good reputation of what dispatch is, because the world needs more dispatchers. And, so to find a group of people that have that mentality was really strong. And then from there, I just kept building a network. Eventually ended up getting involved with my local chapter of APCO. And that was through committee work. I got involved with our training committee and just helping with the training legislature in the state of Florida and coming up with training ideas for the state to host training. And that developed into I wanted to get my RPL, got a scholarship from the chapter, and then as my project created a new committee for the chapter that was it's called the membership committee, and it's about the chapter engaging the membership. So I felt at the time that the chapter wasn't doing a good job getting out to the membership. Maybe not a good job, probably isn't the best way to say it, but getting to the membership. I had to seek out APCO. APCO didn't seek me out as a member.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about APCO until I went to them and started seeking it. So now the membership committee does we send out welcome letters to every new APCO member in the state every month, introducing what APCO is, what APCO can do for the members, scholarships and training and all kinds of things that they can get involved in committees and give back to the dispatch world or help us do more for the entire community outside of just their console. And that was a whole journey, trying to build that committee while I was learning all the stuff that you learn in RPL, which starts with leadership stuff. And as you go through the 6 different courses in RPL, I got new ideas and tried to implement them into the committee that I was leading to try to lead it better. And that year, as I got my RPL, we got word from APCO International that our chapter had the most growth by volume in the country that year.
Wow. Very cool.
So I felt what I was doing with getting people engaged and reaching out to agency leadership and trying to get people to get involved with us had that impact that I was looking for, and we're still trying to do that now.
Yeah, and I think what people can think or get caught up in with like Nina's and APCOs and what your committee that you created solved is like, I don't want to feel like a money grab, right? Like, I don't want to feel like I'm just paying you to be a part of this organization and that's where the communication stops. Like that's where, unless, like you said, unless I'm reaching out to you, asking for something, figuring out what my benefits are, having that engagement that you're talking about that you've created with Florida APCO specifically, and I'm sure is dwindling down through the whole organization, is so important because the folks who are going to these, APCOs and NINAs and being a part of these organizations, they're folks who want to impact change, whether it's in themselves and their own skills, abilities, knowledge, or whether it's their centers that they're trying to impact. They're dispatchers who are motivated to be involved, create change. And those are definitely people we want to pour into, as well as want to find others who have no idea what APCO and NINA is and get them involved. Because if we don't know about it, we can't participate in it, right?
Yeah. And then, taking it further, through doing all these things, I've been able to, come across some incredible people that have become huge mentors in my life. You brought up Halcyon a few times. We came across each other on social media, posting in groups, and just built a really good connection and, love doing work together. We're both very passionate about dispatch. He's so into training, which has never been a huge part for me, but it's so important, and I've served as a trainer. So to have her, get that passion and beat it into me, has been really helpful. If I ever need anything,
all of our interactions are just really violent. It seems like, come on the show, do this.
Yeah. But, no, and if it wasn't for having a mentor like her, or there's so many people that I've just really stuck to through the industry through networking. I don't think I would have done it on my own, gone to speak at a conference or speak at a virtual conference, which that was insanely nerve-wracking. Jump on a podcast, being taught that everyone has a message and a voice by people like that and that it's important for us, to share what we've done and how we're doing it and what we're trying to do with the industry. I think is so important, and to have a great support network behind me to egg me on to try to get more involved than I already am. It's been really really nice.
And it really does go a long way. I just posted on Instagram. I submitted for Calnina, and it would be if it goes through, right. If it goes through, it'll be the first one that I do in person, and it'll be the first session that I've kind of created, like of my own thoughts, feelings, and ideas and whatnot. And I posted it on my Instagram story, and I wrote, Ryan Dedman made me do it. Because I literally like sent an email to him and Cassie, like, hey, check this out. I'm just playing with this. Like I'm just very like perfectionist. Like I want to be knowledgeable and good and yada, yada, yada. And Ryan was, this is great, submit it. And I'm like, oh, submit it. Why? Like, I just wanted some feedback. You're jumping the gun here. And they were like, the deadline's today. Just submit it. We'll work it out. And I was like, okay. And I still panicking about it, but I did it. And,
Good.
if it goes through, it'll be my first in-person vibe. And, it is something like getting out of the comfort zone. I know I'm on the social medias and I'm doing all this stuff, but virtual is different than in person.
Yeah, yeah. And even virtual, I did Dare to Be Great last year. I did Dare to Be Great 4. That was my first time presenting, and it was virtual. And to try to get through my content and space it while it's just me talking to a screen, it was different. It wasn't what I was really expecting, but got through it, and it was my first time presenting, first time creating a class. And that was, I again had a great support network that looked at the class for me. Was like, "You're going to be fine." I'm like, "I'm a perfectionist. It's not okay." It's not okay. But got through it, I think, and the feedback I've had on it's been really, really good. So, been trying to take that in person. I did in person at Florida APCO last year, but I had a co-presenter. One of my mentors, Debbie Galbraith from Florida APCO, was just awesome to stand up and teach with her. She's one of the people that got me involved with APCO originally. Found her; she was an instructor in a class of mine, and we stuck together. So to have her encourage me to teach and help me write a class was a lot of fun too.
Awesome. And I mean, it's so important for everyone to really, because everyone's experience is so different at all these agencies and all these things and the way people do things. And there's so much information that we gain to learn from one another just by hearing about how each other does it, did it, accomplished it, changed it, like all the things. There's so many topics that are out there to learn about and teach on.
Yeah, we're in a world where if you're having a problem at your center, someone else has already probably had it, already posted about it, already taught about it, or if they haven't, they're writing a class about it now. And that's why I love, watching all these virtual conferences, reading through all the social media posts, going on PS Connect, and reading through all the boards. Even if I'm not having a problem, someone might talk about something that gives me an idea. Either something to teach or something to suggest for my center. So many things that just come up, and just through networking with people or getting involved in social media that just can have such a big impact on yourself and your career.
And you never know what the thing is that's gonna make it pop. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know if this. I mean, I had an episode with Ryan and Cassie 2 weeks ago, I think, and we're talking about conferences and presenting and dealing with feedback. And I know Halcyon posts about this often when he gets some feedback that's like, a little, to the chest. And it's like, you got to be willing to be vulnerable. And that's what you're doing when you're presenting this information. You're putting your thoughts and feelings out there. Hopefully it's backed by a little bit of research, a little bit of knowledge that you can lean on. But in reality, you're saying like, hey, I think this could be a thing. I think this could work for some people. If it does, add it to your tool belt. If not, hey, that's cool too. And that's tough because, I think dispatchers are probably some of the toughest critics, in a room.
Walk into a room of type A's, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like just, tear you apart a little bit. So I think we could all give each other a little grace. Um,
Especially walking in. I'm a little bit younger, and I've been in dispatch a lot less than a lot of people. And to
yeah.
walk in to a room of 20, 30-year dispatchers when I've been doing it for 8 years. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, uh,
Hey, I hear you. I'm 5 in,
yeah,
and I got a podcast and a website, and I'm here. But that's such a true statement. And it's like I just had another person. I'm just going back on all my episodes. Madison come onto the show, and she's been doing it for a year. And I was just like, it's so important to talk to you
yeah,
and share your story at this point in your journey, because there are hundreds and thousands of other dispatchers who are a year in and have gone through what you've gone through this last year, and want to know that someone a year in can be on these platforms and sharing their story and going like, hey, like we're here too. And I don't need 20 years to be for my opinion to be valid, or my voice to be heard. First year, 6 months is just as important as 10,
absolutely,
20, 15 years in.
yeah. And even then, especially everyone's learning things differently now. People coming in with some fresh perspectives. We can't live in
Mhm.
this world where, this is how we've always done it in the center. When Joe Schmo walks in with 6 months and is like, "Hey, why don't we try it this way?"
Mhm.
Try it.
Yeah.
They may be onto something.
Mhm. Like, make my job easier. I'm all for it. However we can make that happen, I'm promoting that. I want that done. But it's true. Like if we get stuck, and I think, and I've heard often in centers, is like, well, nothing's gonna change, or even if we do say something, nothing's gonna happen. And it's like, look, it's like negotiating your contract every what 2 3 years, right? Like you're gonna ask for this, but you're only gonna get that and that. Like you have to slowly chip away at the things and say things professionally, and in control, and really express your opinion, and just keep making noise when something is doesn't feel good or isn't right, or if we don't give any feedback to our departments or our management, we just kind of complain within our ranks. You're right, nothing is going to change.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking for 100%. I'm looking for five, and then another five, and then like that's how change really does happen. It's one foot in front of the other, you know?
Yeah, another quote, John Gordon said, "One person in pursuit of excellence raises the standards of everyone around them, and as they strive for greatness, they bring out the greatness in others. Be that one person today."
Mm,
And that's 100% on it.
mhm.
Doesn't matter if it's your first day, if you're 15 years in. If you've got an idea, if you want to walk in the door today with your head held high and try to change the culture in your organization, or make a change that's going to make this job so much better for everyone else, speak up about it. Bring it
Yeah,
up.
do that, like, and if you're the person in the room who's dogging that person for doing that, you know what? Go take your lunch break.
Yeah,
Okay? Go
take
off
a
the
lap.
We're trying to make things better, not keep them the same or make them worse. Um, so we're coming towards the end here. The question I asked everyone is, what advice would you give someone who's considering a career in dispatch?
You know, I think about this a lot recently, and I've had this discussion with a few people. If someone who's looking to get in this career is probably doing some research, they're finding things on social media, probably finding Let's Talk Dispatch. But
Yeah.
there's some groups that out there that draw a lot of negative
Mhm.
comments and a lot of just not so pleasant things about dispatch. And I promise you that this is a great career.
Mhm.
Um, when you're looking into getting into it, if you're thinking about it, ask to go do a sit along in some of the centers in your area. Don't just look at one, look at a couple. When you're in there, talk to the employees, talk to the supervisors, get a feel for how the culture is there. Find the one that's going to work for you, that you're going to fit into, and try to get into that. And don't listen to the things that negative people are saying on social media. Um, you know, they could just be venting. There's a little bit of gallows humor and sarcastic goes with dispatch, sure. But
Mhm.
sometimes in these groups it gets really repetitive, goes too far. Don't fall into that trap.
Mhm.
Just there's people that are out there making a difference. Not every center is a bad center. There are centers out there with incredible cultures. Find the
Mhm.
one that's going to work for you if this is the career that you want to get into.
Awesome. Well, Trey, thank you so much for coming onto the show, sharing your journey, giving us all the amazing advice and tidbits. I really appreciate it and everything that you're doing for the dispatch community with Denise Amber Lee, Humanizing the Headset, APCO, all the things. I'm sure it is appreciated by everyone you're affecting, including me.
It was really good to have you, and thank you so much for everything you're doing trying to get more people in our centers.
Awesome. All right. I'll be right back with you. All right, everybody. That was another amazing episode here on Let's Talk Dispatch. And Trey's completely right. Social media is amazing. I use it, obviously, maybe a little too much, to reach people, share the good, the bad, and everything in between with dispatch, because we definitely want to be transparent when trying to get people into these roles. But yeah, there is some times where you can find a lot of negativity and a lot of folks kind of bashing the career. And the reality is there are centers where toxicity still is alive and well and the culture isn't wonderful, but as Trey said, you got to do the footwork, you got to do the research, find the department that you feel is going to be a good fit for you, because the reality is we are no longer in the day and age where we have hundreds and thousands of people trying to get into our department. It's really our departments are really searching for folks because we need more dispatchers. You hold the balls in your court. You know what I mean? You have all the power in this situation because multiple agencies are hiring. You don't have to settle for one. And I want to empower anyone who's going through the application process to recognize that you are the prize. You don't have to settle for an agency. You can look around and see which one is going to be the best fit for you. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, follow us on all the social medias. And until next time, stay raspy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Dispatch, a Raspy Dispatcher production. If you liked the podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and of course, tell a friend. If you want to be a guest, head to the raspydispatcher.com and check out our additional resources. Until next time, stay raspy, everybody.